It started like any other late-night interview. The band played a jazzy tune, the audience clapped enthusiastically, and Jimmy Kimmel, always with a cheeky smile, introduced his guest. "Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Clint Eastwood." The crowd erupted. Clint walked in, wearing a muted suit, nodding politely but carrying that trademark stoic, unreadable, full of decades worth of silent stories. At first glance, it looked like a regular appearance, but within minutes, something in the air shifted. Kimmel cracked a light-hearted joke about Eastwood's age, the kind of thing most guests laugh off. But Clint didn't laugh. He looked straight at Jimmy and said, "You think that's funny?" The audience giggled, unsure if it was part of a bit. It wasn't. Jimmy Kimmel tried to recover. "Come on, Clint. We love you. You're a living legend." But Eastwood leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "A legend, huh?" he muttered. Funny how legends get dragged into the circus of modern television. The atmosphere dropped. The band stayed silent. Viewers at home leaned forward. This wasn't going to be a typical segment. Kimmel attempted to steer the conversation back to Clint's new film. "So tell us about the new project. I hear it's gritty, intense," but Clint interrupted. "It's real. That's what people are afraid of now. Real stories, real characters, not these cartoon versions of life you parade every night." The tension was unmistakable. Kimmel forced a smile. "You're not a fan of late-night shows, I take it?" Clint didn't flinch. "I'm not a fan of people pretending to be something they're not. Your job used to mean something. Now it's just a platform for selling nonsense and telling people what they want to hear." The crowd fell silent. You could hear the camera cranes creak. This wasn't just tension, it was a full-on clash. Kimmel, visibly uncomfortable now, reached for his mug of water. The producers behind the scenes were already buzzing. Was Clint Eastwood about to sabotage the show live? Instead of calming down, Clint escalated. He began critiquing Hollywood, mocking today's celebrities for being walking PR campaigns and calling out social media stars as digital court jesters. He said what many feared to say, calling the industry a machine of empty applause and controlled narratives. The audience didn't know whether to applaud or stay quiet. Some clapped nervously, others sat frozen. Kimmel tried a soft approach. "Well, Clint, I think we can agree that things have changed, but isn't some of it for the better?" Clint's eyes narrowed. "Progress without backbone is just surrender. What's changed is our courage." Producers in the control room whispered through earpieces, "Start rapping. Cut if it goes worse." Jimmy received the message but tried to salvage the moment. "You know, Clint, you've always spoken your mind up and we respect that." Clint leaned forward slowly, locking eyes with Kimmel. "Respect? Huh? That's just a word people throw around when they're afraid to disagree to your face." Kimmel, still holding on to professionalism, nodded. "Well, we do disagree sometimes. That's the beauty of conversation." But Eastwood shook his head. "This isn't a conversation. It's theater, a place where people pretend to be real just long enough to sell something." The audience was now dead silent. You could hear the tension thick in the room. Jimmy attempted one more pivot. "Maybe we should talk about your role as a director or your creative process." Clint smiled grimly. "I direct truth. I don't manufacture smiles." The comment hit hard. Kimmel, now visibly frustrated, raised his voice just slightly. "Well, Clint, I gotta say, this isn't exactly what we planned for tonight." Clint chuckled dryly. "That's because I don't follow plans. I follow facts." At that moment, one of the producers gave the final call. "Cut the feed if he keeps going." But Clint had one more thing to say before they could act. Eastwood turned to the audience and, with a calm but firm voice, said, "You're smarter than they think you are. Don't just clap when you're told to. Think, question, speak." There it was, the moment that sealed the night in controversy. Cameras caught every word. Jimmy, now visibly sweating, gave a forced laugh and said, "Well, we're out of time, folks." But Clint didn't budge. He sat there, unmoving. The music didn't play. The commercial didn't roll. The show froze in real time. Security was quietly called in. A floor manager came over, whispering to Clint, "Sir, we need to escort you off the set now." Clint stood slowly. He looked around at the crowd, then at Jimmy. "You used to be funnier," he said, before turning his back to the cameras and walking off. "No drama. No shouting, just that icy calm that had made him famous in westerns for decades. The audience, still unsure of what they had just witnessed, remained in stunned silence. Jimmy turned to the camera, forced a smile again, and said, "We'll be right back." But the damage was done. As the screen faded to commercial, chaos exploded behind the scenes. Producers debated whether to air the segment in reruns, or whether to release a statement. Meanwhile, social media lit up like a wildfire. Did Clint Eastwood just dismantle Jimmy Kimmel on live TV? One user tweeted, "He told no lies." Said another. Others weren't so kind. Eastwood's lost it. That was uncomfortable to watch. Within minutes, hashtags like Clint vs. Kimmel, Late Night Meltdown, and Truth or Tantrum were trending globally. News outlets were quick to respond. Morning shows replayed the clip with stunned expressions. Talk radio hosts debated whether Clint was speaking uncomfortable truths or simply being rude. Political commentators chimed in too, linking the moment to broader cultural debates. Some hailed Clint as a voice of reason, a no-nonsense figure daring to question the entertainment bubble. Others saw it as a sad decline of a once great artist. Whatever side people landed on, one thing was clear: nobody could stop talking about it. The next day, Jimmy Kimmel addressed the incident briefly. "Sometimes things don't go the way you expect. Last night was a broken bar, one of those times." He smiled, but the tension was still in his voice. He didn't badmouth Eastwood. He didn't need to. The internet had already taken sides. Clint, for his part, made no apology. In a statement released through his publicist, he said, "Television should reflect real conversations, not curated comfort zones." That line alone was quoted everywhere, from blogs to billboards. In the days that followed, late-night comedy took a hit. People wondered aloud whether the genre had lost its way or whether it had become too sanitized, too predictable. Eastwood's outburst reignited debates about media, entertainment, and the line between truth and tact. Some hosts brought on guests to discuss the moment. Others stayed quiet, not wanting to risk the same fate. The Kimmel-Eastwood clash had done more than just trend up, it had struck a nerve. Surprisingly, Eastwood's popularity spiked. His films saw a surge in rentals and sales. Streaming platforms moved his classics to the front page. People revisited Gran Torino, Mystic River, and Unforgiven with fresh eyes. Even those who disagreed with his views couldn't deny one thing: he was still compelling to watch. His words carried weight. His silence carried power. In an age of sound bites and trending dances, Clint had managed to pause the noise. Behind the scenes at ABC, meetings were held, guidelines were revisited. "No surprises" became the new unofficial motto. Producers grew warier of guests who might veer off script. Some even floated the idea of pre-recording all future interviews. But fans pushed back. "We want the raw moments," one viewer tweeted. "That's why live TV matters." The incident had exposed a deeper dilemma: can media relive its constantly trying to avoid risk? As time passed, more details emerged. Crew members leaked info anonymously. "We didn't expect Clint to go there," one said. "He came in calm, polite, then bombed." He flipped the script. Others defended him. "He was respectful, just intense." What no one denied was the authenticity. Whether it made you cheer or cringe, it felt real in a way few interviews do today. Clint didn't come to play. He came to deliver a message. In Hollywood, the incident sparked new conversations. Agents warned their clients about going off script. Publicists prepared new briefing packets for media appearances. But some younger stars admired Eastwood's boldness. "He said what he felt. That takes guts," one rising actor commented in an interview. Clint, meanwhile, remained silent in the public eye. No follow-up, no apology tour. Just like in the movies, he walked off and let the world talk. Eventually, Kimmel resumed normal operations, but the memory lingered. Every time a guest paused or said something unexpected, the audience held their breath. Was it happening again? That night had shifted the vibe of the show. Not ruined it, had just changed it forever. Clint Eastwood, with a few words and a cold stare, had etched himself into late-night history, not as a comedian, but as a provocateur. In classrooms and think pieces, media experts dissected the moment. Was it a publicity stunt, a generational clash, or simply an old man refusing to conform? Depending on who you asked, it was all three. But no matter the interpretation, it was impossible to deny the impact. One unscripted exchange had ignited 1,000 conversations, and that, in its own way, is the essence of storytelling. The question remains, was Clint Eastwood kicked off because he was too raw or because he was too right? It's a debate that may never have a clear answer. But one thing's for sure, when you bring Clint Eastwood onto your show, you're not just booking a celebrity, you're inviting a force, a presence, a man who, even at 90, can shake the walls with nothing more than a whisper. And so, the night Clint Eastwood was kicked off Jimmy Kimmel's show became a cultural flashpoint, a symbol of the uneasy dance between truth and entertainment. It reminded us all that even in an age of curated content and careful branding, unpredictability still has a place, and sometimes, all it takes is one man, one stare, and a few unscripted words to make the world stop and listen.